of the working week. My name is Janice Cobham. I'm super delighted to be here once again. Welcome.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful day to be alive and a good day to rise and shine wherever you are. Let's not forget to be a part of to call in, send us your WhatsApp or text messages, and we'll gladly take these contributions on the issues that be raised on the floor of Rise and Shine. My name is Uyai Aneka. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, definitely. Great morning here on the Rise and Shine. Says good morning, Uyai.
Good morning, Janice.
Great day it is. I don't know which how you're feeling this morning or what side of the bed you woke up from this morning. Some people would say left side, right side, middle side, or wherever side of the bed it is that you woke up. But
you're up. I think that's the most effective thing.
Definitely.
Once you wake up, be grateful for
the day.
Be grateful
for it and all of that. Okay. Anyways, welcome once again to Rise and Shine Daily. Of course, you know that the show brings you all of the flash news. I don't know. The Sudan evacuation issue in the country is getting a little bit messy, and I'm wondering where exactly is all of this coming from. 1.2 billion naira was released for the purchase of 40 buses, and we still have issues.
132.
1.2 million dollars.
Yeah.
Yes, 1.2 million dollars.
132
that was what
billion naira.
132
in our naira, but I have read the information like different ways. So I've read it when it's substituted
I thought that
in the
was
naira.
Just a smart on spot calculation. I'm like, come on.
Don't worry, my math is not that good.
What's up with the calculating of dollars? You want to give me some heartbreak?
That would have been too quick for my English brain. But it's really troubling. First of all, Nigerians are raising an eyebrow as regards, that amount of money being spent for the evacuation. But, sometimes not even be, Nigerians might not quickly think about the fact that that's the primary problem. So because we will first of all say, okay, let the Nigerians even arrive the country first of all before we begin to really, they say, they're lamenting that in the buses that we used, how many million dollars now to purchase?
$1.2 million.
$1.2 million to purchase that finished. The most essential thing that you will need on the journey finished in the desert. It's just something else. So, but Nigerians are currently stranded on the journey from Khartoum to Cairo after the drivers of the buses paid to evacuate them complained that their fuel finished and that federal government has not remunerated them for the service. As of the time of filing the reports, which was around 2:20 p.m., the report said none of the embassy officials were on the ground to explain to the stranded Nigerians, especially the students, why the drivers have stopped the buses over their claim. Now, the report says the evacuation of about 2,400 students and other Nigerians who were trapped by the ongoing conflict in Sudan took off on a slow start on Wednesday, as only 15 out of the 40 buses required for the exercise were provided. Now, although the federal government hired 40 buses for the repatriation of the citizens from Khartoum and other cities to Egypt, now on Thursday, some students had feared that the 3-day ceasefire declared by the Sudanese Armed Forces and the RSF, Rapid Support Force, which expired yesterday, will catch up with them, in the middle of all of this. But this is just the situation of things. Let's take this video and then we'll just get right into the conversation.
This journey, we have to go on several fighting. Can you imagine that we are stuck in this desert for 5 hours? Like we don't know the situation we have. We don't have water. Our money has finished. Can you imagine? And they said the Bible drivers, they said they are not moving their bus. They said they are not moving their buses because they can't give them money. Which type of attitude is this one? Look at this place. We are stuck in this. We don't have bus. We don't have anything. We don't have compass. Even now our location. We're in an unknown environment with a very big danger.
Look at this place.
Why is Nigeria We don't have cars, we don't have anything, we don't have company.
Yeah, quite a shameful
Situation of things.
situation there. Sometimes you begin to wonder, can Nigerians ever get it right at the first instance of doing anything without all of these encumbrances and all of that? But quick one now, let's see some of the things that we do not even understand. Nigerians could be looking for evacuation according to reports. Of course, authorities said that on Monday. There was a likelihood that a total of around 5,000 Nigerian nationals could be looking for evacuation back here in Nigeria for the returning students as well, according to what the information is saying. It says for students who will like to continue their studies back in Nigeria, available universities have been made. Universities have also reached out to government as well. And then again, there's another one, some transporters demanding to be paid before evacuating the students, like what we saw in that particular video there. And of course, Nigerians are also more like the government now is also, you know, very happy about the fact that no Nigerian
life
has been
killed.
lost. You know, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Zubairu Dada, said that on Wednesday. And then going forward, more information about what is happening in Sudan. 40 buses were purchased at the sum of $1.2 million for evacuation. This was according to Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, who said that on Wednesday. Now, another point we need to know about the whole evacuation saga is that buses already headed to Egypt as well. And then evacuees expected to arrive in Nigeria today. So we're expecting that some evacuees from Sudan will be arriving in Nigeria today. We are looking forward to seeing that as well.
All things being equal.
All things being equal, coming from the fact that there's been just a whole lot of messy issues here and there. Drivers saying they're not going to move until they are being paid and like cash in hand, you know, and all of that.
How did we use $1.2 million and then the drivers have not been paid? Enough fuel was not given. It doesn't just make sense.
It doesn't add
because
up.
if you're going to ask a layman and they'll just say, it's the Nigerian way, you know, they did it just the Nigerian way. So it's not nice to be hearing these kinds of reports when we are talking about large sums of money signed out for this kind of activity, but yet you find out that part of the reason why the evacuation is not done seamlessly is because of lack of dollars that was signed. Wasn't consideration made for field logistics or, you know, the payments of the drivers to get the work done. I mean, it's very unintelligent to hear this kind of thing. Let us not forget that several European countries and other nations of the world have been able to evacuate their, you know, citizens, some of them back to their countries, and, you know, some in other neighboring cities, you know, nations around around Sudan at this time, and we've not heard all this kind of funny, you know, excuses out of the city. It's something that the likes of, you know, Geoffrey Onyema, you know, Zubairu, you know, all of them need to come together and think. Now, having this conversation with someone yesterday, you just look at the fact that Nigerians and our political leaders and minders of our system sometimes just find opportunities to still take back from the system, because people are saying, look, with all that amount of money, some people have found another opportunity to part some more funds and take.
And milk the country. In
so
a bad situation, you're trying to milk the country. It's very insensitive.
It's very insensitive, and it keeps painting Nigeria bad in the eyes of the international community.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if we have this conversation with other communities that have gone on to do this same evacuation, that we are having difficulty, aren't we making ourselves a laughing stock, you know, in the continent, as it were?
Yeah, it's quite a sad situation though. But I remember also that the CEO of Air Peace now was of the opinion that he was giving his Airbuses free of charge, you know, to bring back to the Nigerians from Sudan. So we'll just take a listen to what he has to say.
With the government officials, I've spoken with the foreign affairs minister today in Sudan too. I've spoken with them, and this morning I was on phone to the DG of NEMA, the National Emergency Authority or something. I've spoken with him, and we are planning to deploy on Friday. I wanted to do it today if possible, but forces had left, but it will take 2 days. I wanted to deploy this night. So I'll be deploying on Friday, and maybe on Thursday night, I might send about 3 jets out to Egypt, if possible. I may send in about 3 planes at a time.
Well,
yeah.
really great, give back to his nation right there by the CEO of Air Peace. He said, he was ready on the dot to get the work done.
Yeah.
So we expect that today being Friday, Air Peace air buses will be released to head out to Egypt, to the country. Of course, we give credit to Arise News for that particular interview that was done with the CEO of Air Peace. So great, worrisome as it were, but like I said earlier, we want to first celebrate the arrival of Nigeria safe and sound. As of the last count, we had not lost any life in the process. We hope that that particular flash news, more things are happening. Some people will say funny, and others will ask that, weren't you expecting this to come up? But in the consideration of the federal goal of the fuel subsidy should not be now, which was something said by Zainab Ahmed, the National Economic Council NEC meeting on Thursday, agreed during the meeting to suspend the planned removal of subsidy on petroleum products by the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, made this known to State House correspondents shortly after the Valedictory Council meeting presided over by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the Presidential Villa Abuja. Now, the minister stated that the council deliberated on the matter and resolved that the fuel subsidy cannot be removed for now, according the council, however, agreed on the need to continue the discussion on the matter and the necessary preparatory work in conjunction with state and representatives of the incoming administration, she said. Now, the council has agreed that the timing of the removal of fuel subsidy should not be now, but that we should continue with all the preparatory works that is needed. I know, Janice, if you remember very well, these were part of the things that we discussed about the timing of the fuel subsidy removal. Why didn't he remove it in the middle of his own administration? These were questions that we've thrown open in the course of having this conversation. And then we said it would be a really tough welcome for the Tinubu-led administration, and this is the consideration that they gave for the removal, the suspension of the removal of fuel subsidy.
Yes, fuel subsidy has always been a very dramatic conversation because of it to milk the country dry, should change the economy and the country and all of that. We've heard so much about fuel subsidy removal right from the regime of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former president of Nigeria, and at that point we know what some people who are still in government in this particular administration did, as propagandas against that particular policy of fuel subsidy removal. So it was quite surprising for a lot of Nigerians to see that this same tool that was used as a propaganda in 2015.
Yeah,
now,
during
2015?
The
Yes,
Jonathan
2015 now, not even 2015. I think 20. Is it 2015?
That was
2012.
2015,
Yeah, that's
yes.
before 2012 now, because I remember Occupy Nigeria hashtag. It was everywhere, yeah, where people just came out and occupied the streets and all of that in complaint of fuel subsidy removal. And it's quite interesting though, and surprising as well, that you find that these same people that kicked against the fuel subsidy removal are the people that are pushing for a total removal now of fuel subsidy. So they had their governments definitely weighed their options and maybe also understood that yes, if you remove fuel subsidy, which is not a problem, right? It's not a problem at all, because if you're saying that we want to remove the monies that we spend in subsidizing fuel for consumers in the country, we are going to be plowing back that money into something more tangible. We are going to be plowing back that money into something more productive, right? So Nigerians wouldn't have a problem, because obviously there'll be fuel everywhere. So that as you're taking off the fuel subsidy,
we even have the product
on ground to purchase. Because if you take off subsidy and the product is not on ground to purchase, then where do you leave Nigerians? We'll come back into a very bad situations where people will be dying of hunger, and more people
will be crunched again. We still do not have money in circulation.
Of course, you know, it has a ripple effect on the economy. So if businesses crunch, the economy won't grow to an extent, okay? So if they are saying, I'm sure that they weighed all of those options, but it was quite also funny to also hear that there's a borrowing of $800 million to use as palliative to cushion the effect of, you know, the fuel subsidy removal. Now, where has that 800 naira gone to? Because
it's freezing. It's in the financial freezer of the country. Because
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it is, because they had also said that the assembly, National Assembly, had not given access for the money to start be distributed to families. So it is in the National Treasury freezer. It's freezing.
It's freezing.
Let's hope
somewhere
that it doesn't get missing.
Exactly. Let's hope that there is a subsidy, or if there are monies being subsidized on fuel, then I don't have a problem for it to be removed. Of course, economists and, you know, have actually analyzed the situation and saying that, look, we are spending too much even in subsidizing fuel for Nigerians to consume. So if the monies that we use in subsidizing fuel is being plowed into something else, plowed into roads, infrastructures, plowed into even revamping our refineries, because one, you won't even have much need for the fuel unless maybe you're someone that has a car and you want to drive. But if you're saying that you're buying fuel for your car, you're buying fuel for your generator, you're buying fuel for your office that you're even using for production, then that is too much. It is a little too much for Nigerians to be able to handle.
We're looking at a lot of economic back ends when you're talking about subsidy removal, because let's just calculate it. How much is minimum wage upon even the 40% increase? Yeah, you know, for some persons. When you say we are buying fuel upon removal of subsidy at 700 naira, we are going to have more Nigerians plunged beneath the poverty line. Because with 700 naira, there's going to be a ripple effect on transportation, of course, whether I have a car or not. It's going to have a ripple effect on the price of food. Are we really ready for some of these things we want to do as a nation?
But again, sorry for quoting you, again, if very large extent, we still have Dangote, who is coming up as an independent, you know, oil producer, refinery, and all of that. So I think that there's just a lot of monopoly somewhere. There's just a lot of monopoly. So if we break that monopoly, you see that the prices of this commodity will come down. Because if you're not willing to give me at a price that is favorable to me, I have the opinion and the option to go to somebody else to get it.
True that.
And then somebody else would want to, like, quick business. Okay, let's run on turnover. Instead of making so much, you know,
one chunk.
Yes, let's run on turnovers.
Because on some quarters it's more like you people in that place, you know what you are doing.
Exactly.
Because
one minute you want to remove fuel subsidy, the next minute you say
didn't you know that the timing was wrong before now, you know, all of those things. And like you said, the move to quickly get the $800 million loan was quickly done before you now realize, oh, we need to shift this further. And when we are saying we are shifting this further to the consideration of the new administration coming, you don't know when they will now consider to remove it. So for now, we just hear that whole, of course, they say they'll continue the communication, you know, all the planning, but you know that it will halt somewhere along the line. But then we just have, you know, much more stories. Where it stands right now is that the move to remove subsidy has been, you know, halted by the federal government in consideration of the incoming administration. They say it's not a good way to welcome them to start work. I think that is also a wise thing to have done. But moving on to all the other stories that we have.
Yeah, quite interestingly, we saw the Nigerian army in its full regalia and all of the authority that they acquire, and it was beautiful to watch though. But ahead of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's inauguration, which is going to be on May 29, colors of the Nigerian army, Buhari made this known, of course, in the press. Anyways, we saw this happen yesterday, and it was quite beautiful to see. So many information, Uyai, on this trooping and regimentation and but I know that the Nigerian army did a trooping and presentation of colors way back. The last time that happened was in 2007, and since after then they have not done the of colors in terms of the uniform or their badges. I was trying to assimilate the information. Their badges, that they said increases the operational commitments of the army, as well as provisions of the extant order of battle, OBAT. But it was quite a beautiful sight to behold. I think I was speaking to some people yesterday is in preparation of the inauguration come 29. I think also some Nigerians have also said that this is more like a very stern message to Nigerians, for those that think that the May 29th inauguration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not going to hold. This is like a stern warning to everybody to know that nothing is going to stop that inauguration from holding. Of course, there's been, you asked me on May 29.
Yeah, part of the things that President Muhammadu Buhari said, during this event was the fact that the fighting power of the Nigerian army has increased significantly under his administration, making it fourth in ranking among African militaries as against seventh in 2015. Of course, President Buhari and his administration do not fail to take, hold of opportunities to say of the things that they have done. So, in his words, Nigerian army has moved into fourth place in the ranking of the militaries in Africa. Now, he said the fighting power of the nation's army was, as it's true, around this activity that was carried out yesterday.
Definitely, a whole lot.
Backdating into the military era, the fact that the military, the British era rather, the fact that it was the British upon, colonization that gave us some of the colors that we were still using, and that there is a difference between the military colors and, the British colors. So there's just a lot of history there. It's something that, needs to, a lot of time needs to be taken to understand. Like he said, something that must not be missed in the belly of this conversation is the underlining interpretation and meanings. Yeah, the underlining understanding. First of all, I would say that general that he can add to make things different and have a different effect on the operational proceedings of the Nigerian army. We hope that in the overall it is for the good of the Nigerian army at the end of the day. That when it comes down to interpretation and implementation, it will move the Nigerian military forward, not just increasing the colors for grandeur during an event of handing over. It needs to go beyond that, really, not just pomp and pageantry, because or else we will wonder, is this also an attempt by the APC government to, do whatever they please because they are in power. So we have to look at these moves in the way that they affect the country after this administration is gone. But of course, the pomp and pageantry, this is just a couple of days away from the inauguration. Imagine what the inauguration day
will now look like. That's where Nigerians are coming from. That the tension is already building, and it's pretty too much for an inauguration. But I know that there's always another side to stories, especially of this kind of magnitude. Of course, we see General Gowon there, retired. We see former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan there as well. But there's another angle to this particular story. Nigerians will not always stop crews. But again, for me, when I saw this happen yesterday and I saw President Muhammadu Buhari cladded in that military uniform, I took my mind back, even though I didn't grow up seeing him as head of state or, and all of that. But I took my mind back to when he was in the Nigerian army and a military. And guess what? Hashtag started trending. And I think it was once a general, always a general or so. Yes, once a general, always a general trended yesterday, and all of that. So it now took my mind back to 1961, of course, to 1985, when General Muhammadu Buhari was in in service, active service as a major general. Let's look at some tweets that Nigerians have actually reacted to this particular hashtag. Once a general, always a general.
So Halima Abacha Messi says, okay, yeah, once general, always general. Baba fully kitted in military attire. I love the uniform. It was actually really nice to see him in, and it looks like he was in his element. Everyone was happy to see President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR dressed, wearing uniform with rank of a field marshal, 5-star general today, including whalers. Once a general, always a general. God bless Nigerian Army. God bless Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yes. Okay.
And this one says, of course, MS Ingwa, General Muhammad Buhari, retired Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Once a general, always a general. Nightmare of Boko Haram bandits, IPOB, blah, blah, blah. All right. Do we have any more tweets? If we do not have, let's come back to. Of course, it was actually beautiful to see. Yeah,
but you can see that
the feeling was palpable.
It was in his strides. It was in his air.
You mentioned one word, in his elements.
Definitely in his elements. It's like
someone like it took him back to those days, when they had guns, and maybe he fought wars as well.
Of course, yes, he did. He was part of certain really big things that they did back in the time. Yes, I think he directed some of the squads that actually did this. So you can imagine that. Yes, so you can imagine that he was
the nostalgia. Yes,
that
of the battalion.
Back, even putting on just the uniform.
Come on, it's just like it's just like you going back to maybe putting on your secondary school uniform, your primary school uniform. When they say great Nigerian students, that ginger, great.
But I'm trying to do a quick swipe in my head. I don't think we've seen. I think what made it possible that he could put on that is the fact that he himself is a retired general, because I don't think I've seen any other president, maybe, in time past, being clad in that manner, although they are the commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
Yeah, no, I've seen Goodluck Abele Jonathan
clad in
yes,
that?
But it was a camouflage. Yeah, it was a camouflage. But
so that's how I said I was trying to do a quick swipe in my head. Maybe I didn't see that, but yes, so it was beautiful to see. Preparations are in top gear towards the inauguration.
Yeah,
but again, Janice, there's an angle we did not throw into that.
Okay, let's quickly
do that. In all of this preparation now and all of that event that happened, is that monies have been quoted, right?
Quoted.
A lot of money is going into that rehearsal and those
anti-regimentation and trooping. But you know that in Nigeria, there's nothing we do that money doesn't go under, right? So the question is, were the uniforms sewn for free and all of that? Well, yeah, let's just wrap up on this. We'll just take a short breather at this point, and when we come back, of course, we have daily spotlight where we get to share information on the front pages of our national dailies with you. And of course, our focus conversation will be going all the way to Cross River State, Calabar, to find out what is the hope and the faith of those sweepers that have been owed since 2022. And of course, there's also the issue coming from the Carnival Commission, where people are still being owed since 2019, where they worked for the government of Cross River State. Very messy situations there. But we'll be back after Mary Joseph is done with the news brief. Just stay with us.
limiting many people. In a bid to eradicate malaria, the world commemorates Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease and examine efforts towards the prevention and time to deliver zero malaria, invest, innovate, implement. It is a call to implement the currently available tools and strategies to reach those who are in need at the West End.
The world commemorates World Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease, as well as examine efforts towards control, prevention, and elimination of the disease. Join me as I examine citizens' opinion on malaria, its causes and effects ahead of World Malaria Day.
Malaria is an infection caused by a parasite, and the Plasmodium commonly around us is the Plasmodium species.
I'm a parasite, mosquito parasite mostly. If you've been bitten by mosquito continuously, you will definitely come down with malaria.
Primarily, it's caused by a vector. It's carried by mosquito, and then when you have mosquito bites, Plasmodium is introduced to you. Parasite called Plasmodium. And where can you find the Plasmodium? The Plasmodium could only be found or harbored by a female Anopheles mosquito.
Simply put, mostly comes down with some symptoms of fever, chills, shivering, headache, loss of appetite, and more.
People treat malaria in different ways. Some do self-medication, others go herbal, while some visit the hospital. The twist here is, with the level of treatment, malaria is still a major public health challenge in Nigeria, despite why malaria lingers despite efforts put in place to eradicate it.
Going for test, we've seen this Nigeria. It's only when the disease starts that's when you go for test. You can't just go for test when you don't have when nothing's wrong with you.
Currently for me, people have different ways of belief. But for me, I treated my own through using the prescribed malaria drug.
I normally have malaria. Normally, for malaria, it depends on people's immunity. That can determine how often someone...
Of the Anopheles mosquito being the primary cause of malaria. However, how well do we take care of our surroundings to prevent malaria?
For me, I take preventive measure, like my house I use mosquito nets, and I also have insecticides, mosquito repellents, that I use all the time, so I make sure it doesn't happen. But most of this time these things, it doesn't work all the time, I would say so.
I don't think I have any malaria in my life before, because I do treat myself and I keep my environment very neat.
I do try my best to, keep my surrounding clean, avoid having stagnant water, which is actually what they breed on. Then fumigate.
I make sure my house is okay, like use the right insecticide, and then cover myself if I'm outside the house, maybe coming to night class to read. Then make sure I protect myself from mosquito bites.
If you live in a places where there are gutters and stagnant water, you try to clean them, clear your environment, bushes. Mosquito breeds there, lays egg, and then the egg grow into...
Where do you find these mosquitoes? You find them where there are white bushes. You find them where there are stagnant water. Let's assume where you are living or where you are staying, you don't have control over the bushes around there. Even where they have stagnant water, what do? By introducing oil into that stagnant water, it will, because the Plasmodium have stages and you cannot pull the water out. You could introduce, so even if it's a condensed oil or any kind of oil you have, it will distort the metamorphic process of the Plasmodium.
There are a lot of measures that can be put in place in the prevention of malaria in our vicinity, in our environment. Another measure too is to take care of the refuge dumps, because you discover that wherever there is refuge, on the ground especially, they are going breeding mosquitoes that will eventually become the vector for Plasmodium.
Statistics have shown that about 600,000 deaths in Nigeria every year is due to malaria.
I am in no for herbal treatment. No, I do not subscribe to herbal treatment. From my understanding, most herbal treatments for malaria are not.
Voting for Spectrum TV to report for the last 6 seconds to counting.
Good morning. This is your morning news brief on Spectrum Live from Uyo. I am Uyai Anekan. President Buhari says opposition lost 2023 election due to overconfidence. Worked hard to retain power in the 2023 general elections, the combined opposition lost due to overconfidence. The senior special assistant to the president and media and publicity can openly address issues among themselves. Away from that, National Economic Council (NEC) has suspended the planned removal of subsidy on petroleum products by the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The minister found by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. On labor matters, the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) has commended the federal government on the 40% salary increase for workers in the country. This was part of resolutions at the end of the National Administrative Council meeting of the NLC. The union, in a statement jointly signed by the NLC President Comrade Joe Ajero and its Secretary General Emmanuel Ubuaja, also warned state council members to desist from covering state governors committing atrocities, gaining momentum within Nigeria's cyberspace. Victims of the surge who feel smeared have been encouraged to seek redress under the Cybercrimes Prohibition and Prevention Act 2015 or file actions to enforce their fundamental right to dignity of the human person. Nigerian Bar Association NBA Chairman Uyo Branch, Barrister Nobo Akpan, described the prank as unfortunate and unacceptable as it violates the victim's fundamental right to dignity of human person. On the foreign scene, rival factions of Sudan's military have agreed to renew a 3-day ceasefire shortly before it was due to expire. The extension for another 72 hours followed intensive diplomatic efforts by neighboring countries as well as the US, UK, tried to evacuate their citizens. Almost 2 weeks of fighting between the army and a rival paramilitary group have reportedly left hundreds dead. Son Heung-min scored a 79th minute equalizer and Mason's first game back as interim boss. United looked to be coasting to a 4th straight Premier League win after goals by Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford put them in a commanding position at halftime. Pedro Porro launched the fight back before Bruno Fernandes hit the bar for United when he should have scored. That's all we have at this time. We'll have details of these and more during our 12 o'clock bulletin.
This was the Lagos Nigeria for Spectrum TV to report for the last 6 seconds to counting.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria police force, which shall be
enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leaving the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court.
We face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally speaking, join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
Many thanks for still being there. Of course, we just came off the news brief desk. Of course, I was there to give us update on some of the major issues happening across the country and globally as well. But just to let the 3-day ceasefire is elapsing or elapsed yesterday, and Nigerians and the Nigerian government were trying to see a way of evacuating about 5,000 Nigerians from war-torn Sudan. But it seems as if the situation is quite messy at this point. We saw videos where Nigerians are saying they're stranded somewhere in the desert. The transporters that are to be used to evacuate those Nigerians peacefully. But the good news after all is that no Nigerian life is lost in Sudan as we speak. We're just holding on to that and hoping that, like the federal government has said, that by this morning, Friday morning, we'll see some of the evacuees from Sudan land in the country. We are hoping that we see that happen as well. And of course, we also touch light on the fact that the federal government has suspended fuel subsidy removal. It was some kind of major conversation there, the fuel subsidy removal. One of the major tasks that the next administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu will now was earmarked for the cushioning of the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. We don't know how that will turn out at the end of the day now that the suspension, the government is saying let's suspend fuel subsidy removal for now. And of course, we saw the trooping and presentation of colors for the Nigerian army ahead of May 29 yesterday, and of course the hashtag once a general, always a general, trending for president. At our daily spotlight, let's look at some of the issues being raised on the front pages of our national daily. So it's up with daily spotlight next.
Daily Spotlight, looking at the front pages of our national dailies. What stories do we have? Let's take the Punch first this morning. The very big story there on Punch newspaper, of course. We're looking at National Assembly leadership. Tinubu governors dump consensus for zoning. Governors advised Tinubu against endorsing candidates, seek due process. Work with party leadership for principal officers election, Tinubu tells governors. Federal government plans supplementary budget as NEC suspends subsidy removal. Rescued Nigerian students arrive Egypt await airlift. PDP LP lost poll to overconfidence, says Buhari. We also have over 60,000 soldiers recruited under my watch, says Buhari. $2.4 billion diversion claim baseless, says Malami. Nigerians rejoice as police go after road cops, page 3. Flood, 16 states IFG relief fund, page 34. And those are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch.
Okay, we look at the very next paper now, which is Daily Sun. The big story is on a Senate presidency race, and it says Tinubu rejects APC national elect route for Kalu, and as Northern Southwest coalition pushes for Southeast. Moving forward, of course, you can find that particular story on page 6. Malawi dismisses alleged claim about loss of $2.4 billion, I beg your pardon, crude oil sale to China. Details can be found on page 5. Governor find that story. Federal government suspend fuel subsidy removal. Governors hail Osibajo in valedictory sessions for him. Page 26 is where you get that. Don't abandon Buhari after May 29. Adamu, APC boss begs Nigerians. Page 28 is where you get that story from. And of course, the writer says, urges Nigerians to support Tinubu to succeed. We have that IPOB. Supreme Court grants federal government's request to file additional grounds in appeal against Kalu. Adjourns till May 11. Page 4 is where you get that story from. And quite a rather sad story here. 12 burns beyond recognition in Jaws tanker explosion. Page 27 is where you get that report from there. And that's all we can take on Daily Sun this morning.
All right, moving on, we move to This Day newspaper. This Day newspaper, the front page there, big story says Buhari, overconfidence, bad tactical moves killed opposition at polls. Says APC blended confidence with caution, worked hard to win. Hints at retirement plans to leave in Kaduna after 6 months in Dara. Discloses nation's military ranking has risen from 7th to 4th in Africa. Okay, we also see here NEC pushes FG to suspend planned fuel subsidy removal. Proposes supplementary budget amendment to PIA. NACCIMA petrol subsidy removal without operation of local refineries will hurt businesses and shut down SMEs. Malami dismisses claims of loss of $2.4 billion from crude oil sale to China. Tinubu to APC governors work with party to elect 10th National Assembly principal officers. We also have here Sudan, first batch of Nigerian evacuees arrive country today. That's all we have on the front page of This Day newspaper.
Our very next paper will be the Nation newspaper. And the big story on the Nation says why Tinubu floored Atiku Obi by President Buhari. I think that will be quite an interesting read. Top positions. Okay. President-elect urges governors to back party on National Assembly top positions. Mixed reactions trail subsidy removal shifts. Okay. Of course, we definitely would have mixed reactions trailing that particular story. 48 million barrel of crude oil not missing. Malami tells reps. Okay. Southwest states to launch regional power rail projects. Southwest states to launch regional power rail projects. We also have that with Tinubu's administration. I think that's great news. Okay, that's all that we have on the front page of the Nation this morning.
Okay, moving from the nation, we'll take our last paper. That'll be the Nigerian Tribune. And the big story there is still on the NEC suspension of fuel subsidy removal, hints on supplementary budgets, tinkering with PIA. Domestic production of petroleum products, best option, says NLC and TUC. Page 2 is where you can find that story. Afenifere folds FG's insistence on conducting national census. Court refuses to grant request seeking to stop census. There will be movement restrictions during exercise, says federal government. NAS presiding poor. School building, houses in Agege, Alimosho at risk. Allegations on $2.4 billion crude oil theft baseless and lack merit, says Malami. 10 killed in Plateau tanker explosion. Hoodlums burn FRSC vehicle on rescue mission. Page 27. Court grants federal government leave to file 9 new grounds against Nnamdi Kanu's release. Page 5. Dawn Commission to partner foreign investors to link 44 southwest cities by rail. Good news. We also see here Sudan, amid stranded drama. NEMA says first batch of evacuees to arrive Nigeria today. Governors to meet Buhari over RMAFC's new revenue farm.
I repeated on our national dailies this morning, but we'll quickly open our phone lines now to Nigerians to have their inputs in all of this. What stories are quite interesting to you? Cuts across, all of the papers this morning. Obviously, Nigerians are not taking it with a pinch of salt, and we definitely have these kinds of reactions where some people are saying, why are you putting the cart before the horse? Why didn't you, think about all of the preparations before you come up to say you're going to be removing fuel subsidy, and you even put a date to it, which is to let Nigerians know and all of that. And what exactly is the reason why we are deciding, to put a hold on the fuel subsidy removal thing? Let's not also forget that some people have argued that it's just a way for some Nigerians, to siphon monies. But again, I think the Minister of Petroleum is trying to let us know that, of course, in the 2023 budget, subsidy provisions for subsidy has already been done in the 2023 budget, and it expires in the month of June or something like that. So what will we be doing going forward from there? These are many questions that needs answers at this point in time. But the underlining factor is that provisions, in terms of the preparatory works now that they are asking for, or they are saying that they are doing, and consultations with different, representing on Nigerians eventually when this is removed. And so I think all of that is being what is put into consideration at this preparatory stage of discussions, for the fuel subsidy removal. That's just it for that one. But
as part of way to even cushion the fact that now, because it was built into the budget, now we are looking at having a supplementary budget just to be able to, cushion the effect of not removing the subsidy, because now that money still has to continue running, and then the budget needs to be adjusted. But we are sure that the men at the helms of affairs will sit over it and find a way that works. This, like you said, are things that are creation of Nigerians, like we had earlier discussed. NEMA has said emphatically that the first batch of Nigerians will be hitting soil today. So I think that's a good one. President Muhammadu Buhari stands on the loss of the election for the opposition parties. Is I don't know, it feels like a hit below the belt. More like they were overly confident. And I think the person who was even overly confident during the whole campaign was actually Bola Tinubu. It wasn't necessarily all the other people. But then President Muhammadu Buhari is saying they failed at the polls because they were overly confident and did not put in the rest of the work that was necessary.
They failed at the polls?
Yes.
As in the APC or the
No,
other
the other opposition,
parties?
yes.
Okay,
That's
they didn't
Labour
put in
Party
as
and
much
People's
work.
Democratic Party, yeah. That they were overly confident. That is why they failed at the polls. They were too confident and didn't put in the work. Yes, APC was confident and they put in the work, hence their results. And I'm like, okay.
Well, he has his opinion. He has a right to his opinion. If he feels that, because generally, if someone fails at something, the next thing they'll say is, "Oh, you were not prepared enough for that. You know, you left loopholes, you left room for lapses, and all of that. You couldn't cover your tracks and all of that." So maybe that's you know, the angle that the president is coming from. APC did well. They more like they did their homework properly. Now, this is not me saying. I'm saying that this is what you know.
Yeah, the president
is trying to imply by some of the things he has made, some of the comments he has made, that APC did well, they did their homework well, and that's why they were able to win the polls as well. But I think that the last of the 2023 elections that will, you know, be held for the longest of time. Some people have also said that when you look at elections in the history of Nigeria, that the 2023 election will go down the annals of history as one of the worst elections ever, you know, in the country. But again, there are also some school of thoughts that will be that, look, 2023 election was the best so far, because again, incredible, yes, but we've not been able to really distinguish how an election is supposed to be free. When you say that an election is free, what does it mean? When you say that an election was fair, what does it mean? When you say that an election was credible, what does it also mean? So I also see that when you're trying to distinguish these factors, right, you would say that the election was fair. But when you talk about credibility, it means that to a large extent, excesses, encumbrances was minimal, but we would not say that it was quite a credible election. But being fair, I think it was fair to an extent, because you see that when we look at the you know, composition of some of the elective positions in the country today, you see a mix. So it's not a situation where you say, oh, in the National Assembly or even in the state houses of assembly, APC, the ruling party, cleared all the seats. You know, so there is a good composition. There is even in the governorship race as well. So I think to an extent that's fair. And I think that a lot of critics will come from that angle to say that, look, the 2023 election is the best in the country so far. That's where the line of thought a lot of critics will come from, you know. But then we still have the people that will tell you, no, it is not. And then again, I think that we should look at elections beyond, oh, my candidate did not win, and so because of that, the election wasn't fair and credible. It wasn't free, fair, and credible. You know, let's go beyond that. I'm happy that there is you know, a courts tribunal for all of the election cases. So let the courts decide at the end of the day. But again, I think that the appeal court is the most higher court, and they say that, I think I was having a conversation with somebody when they said that, look, after the appeal court, if it doesn't work there, then more like the appeal court is the voice of God, or you wait for the voice
Supreme
of God.
Court now.
The Supreme Court, I beg your pardon, yes. You wait for the voice of God and all of that. So there are also people that will tell you that the judicial system is not trustworthy enough to, you know, you don't expect the president to tell you that, look, he didn't have a good outing. He will definitely say that he had a good outing. He will tell you that the election was one of the best in the history of the country. Obviously, it was a legacy
edition.
Yes, that he wants to leave for Nigerians. So yes, he will tell you that, yes, he gave us a good run for our time, and of course for all of the monies that were plunged into INEC in preparation for the 2023 elections.
Well, President Muhammad Buhari has the right to stick to his legacy edition election. So, in his words, it is what it is, actually. Then, this is also a strong conversation on the front pages of our national dailies. Tinubu pushing for, you know, state governments and governors to be the ones to not dump consensus for zoning. Remember that, you know, upward to the, you know, when the president-elect arrived in the country, it was more like, okay, we know that with the National Assembly speakership, there's greater greater likelihood that it's going to be leaning towards zoning. But then when we begin to see that, that whole consensus of zoning is going to be dumped, then you're going to begin to see that I feel like it's going to raise more complications if you just go that because, okay, this person is from so place and the person is competent, let the person come, disregarding the fact that, I think sometimes some of the structures of zoning also takes away the feelings of marginalization by other factors in the party, so that we know that, okay, since we have all agreed that zoning is the way, after brother A finishes, party B, zone B will go. So it's not a matter of you coming to in our country, although we know a lot of times even our politicians disregard that. But I feel like this is going to be a problem when you say that they're dumping the consensus for zoning. So we can imagine how the story is going to begin to evolve from here on out, if this is a valid standpoint that Tinubu and the rest of the APC family, or even not just APC now, Tinubu and governors, if this is where they're agreeing, I don't see how good this is going to get from here on out.
Well, I think that just explains all of the visitations that the president-elect have been, receiving since he came back from his 1 month vacation, in France and London as well. So we see that the lobbying will get more intense at this particular time. But again, we should be looking out for capacity. We should be looking out for people that can well represent us and not stooges, to the president and all of that. People that would not be able to, present anything on the floor of the House. It's just like, oh, yes sir, thing that we, experienced during the 9th Assembly. I think that at this point, the 10th Assembly should bring up a little bit more, should be more vibrant, more appealing to Nigerians, in terms of the kinds of policies they will be dishing out. Let's not forget that there's a lot of, I would like to use the word wokeness, coming from Nigerians at this point in time. So I don't think that even though the elections have gone the way it has gone, I don't also think that Nigerians will go back to sleep in terms of seeking good representation from all of those people that will be representing them at different positions in governance. So if you are not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not representing well, trust me, you'll be dragged. You will definitely be dragged, and all of that. So I think that the 10th uniqueness about the 10th Assembly now, in terms of its composition, I know that we had conversations about that earlier, where different political parties are there. And of course, remember also that there are also forming alliances, the minority parties represented in the National Assembly and of course in the reps as well, are forming alliances so that they can also be like watchdogs to the ruling parties now. So I don't think that we are going to see, or rather Nigerians are not expecting to see a 10th Assembly that will just be there as rubber stamp like the 9th Assembly was. Where the zoning or whatever it is method they are going to use in choosing who becomes the Senate president or even the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I think that's one. It shouldn't be like how do we always put it, like a payback or something now.
Payback is
payback, for what you did for me. But rather it should be that you're looking for people that are credible, people that have the capacity to move the country forward, people that have good heads on their neck, I beg your pardon, that will be able to hold, the House of Reps and of course the Senate as well, and also be able to tell the president when he is deviating, and all of that, and not people that would just be giving the president pats on the back, you're doing great, and all of that,
Well, that also will still further question the whole need for federal character principle. Principle when we are allocating positions. And I think it's important that even in the jurisdiction of how things are going to be done in the coming administration, there is a place for that so that we can collectively move forward. I know that we had a guest who was saying a couple of days back that even with that federal character principle, sometimes it doesn't always have 100% gain, because sometimes you may not have
kind of people.
Like in the words of Tinubu now, why he picked his running mate was how effective he thinks Shatima is for that position. So there's a lot of questions around here, but I think here about the Afeni Ferre group raising concerns about the census. Census is meant to start in a couple of days, and there's still been some factions that are saying we don't think it's time, we don't think it's necessary. We are looking at a lot of monies being voted. We are looking at the fact that we are still struggling with how properly the elections were, carried out. Do we really want to put I think something we don't consider is the fact that nationhood has a heart and has a psychology, and the people in the country are in a certain kind of way right now psychologically when it comes to the dealings of the federal government and its people. Are the people really ready to welcome census at this time? I think these are some of the conversations that the likes of the Afeni Ferre group and every other person who's tried to push a petition for the census to be either moved forward or cancelled in this particular year. But of course, the court has upheld that the census is going to go as earlier scheduled. But we hope that it is not one more move. And we're saying when we have census, it's going to generate data for us to help with policies, help with structuring, help with things. But in the midst of saying yes, we want this census to happen, the court says it is still going to happen. We hope that at the end of the day they give us credible work. Let it be properly done in such a way that the data generated out of the census, it's not a sham. It was not a work that was haphazardly done. Not some people saying, oh, our servers have been attacked, and someone says we are going to deal with you for raising such alarm because no such thing happened. We need to know that the entire body for the process is together and they're ready for this, or else it is honorable to shift it forward until all the groundwork is properly done.
And do we think that the groundwork will ever be properly done?
That's another Nigerian question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we just need to take a breather. And of course, we're also hoping to have a guest join us this morning, the Commissioner for Information, Cross River State, to talk about some of the messy issues being raised in Cross River as we speak. We played you some clips some days ago of sweepers talk about being paid. These are monies that are not even anything to write home about. We're talking about 10,000. We're talking about 5,000 naira in a month for people that wake up and are very sacrificial. As early as 4 a.m., 5 a.m., these women are making sure that the streets of Calabar is being kept clean, but they are not paid. And also, another group of people, interestingly, we know that the Carnival Calabar is a yearly annual event. As big and internationally recognized as it is, there are people at the background that do the dirty job. And these people are the people crying out now, from marshals to band leaders to even the OAPs and the artists that perform in the carnival are not being paid, allegedly not being paid. Now, we do not know whether the government have released those funds and the funds are being hijacked by a particular group of people, or the government has not paid at all. Now, these were the line of conversations that we needed to have with the Commissioner of Information, Cross River State, Eric Anderson, to clear that with us this morning. But again, we've not been able to have him join us, and so we just take a short breather now, and because with us.
Malaria, a silent killer, destroying dreams and limiting many people. In a bid to eradicate malaria, the world commemorates Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease and examine efforts towards the prevention, elimination, and control of the disease. This year, 2023, the World Malaria Day theme is Time to Deliver Zero Malaria, Invest, Innovate, Implement. It is a call to implement the currently available tools and strategies to reach those who are in need at the Western Pacific. So, we spoke to experts who shared their expertise on causes, effects, and preventive measures ahead of the World Malaria Day. The world commemorates World Malaria Day to raise awareness about the mosquito-borne disease, as well as examine efforts, its causes and effects ahead of World Malaria Day.
Malaria is an infection caused by a parasite, the Plasmodium. Commonly around us is the Plasmodium species, where there are many species, but in Africa, in Nigeria, the commonest species is Plasmodium falciparum.
Malaria is actually a sickness caused by a parasite, mosquito parasite mostly. If you've been bitten by mosquito continuously, you will definitely come down with malaria.
Primarily, it's caused by a vector. The associated symptoms comes. So when we talk of malaria, it's caused by a parasite called Plasmodium. And where can you find the Plasmodium? The Plasmodium could only be found or harbored by a female Anopheles mosquito.
Simply put, malaria is a disease that is associated with a vector transmission of the female Anopheles mosquito, and mostly comes down with some symptoms of fever.
In different ways. Some do self-medication, others go herbal, while some visit the hospital. The twist here is, with the level of treatment, malaria is still a major public health challenge in Nigeria, despite substantial efforts to reduce the prevalence and impact of the disease. Spectrum Television got diverse responses from citizens on why malaria lingers.
You can't just go for tests when you don't have when nothing's wrong with you.
Countless times I've had malaria, and I believe in medicals, hospital. I don't really believe in all these traditional works. I don't believe in them because they don't work for me. People have different ways of belief, but for me, I treated my own through using the prescribed malaria drug.
Normally for malaria, it depends on people's immunity. That can determine how often someone will have malaria. But for me, I think I treat malaria once every 3 months. Sometimes because of environment and the mosquito around. Yeah.
We complain of the Anopheles mosquito being the primary cause of malaria. How
I take preventive measure, like my house, I use mosquito nets, and I also have insecticides, mosquito repellents, that I use all the time. So I make sure it doesn't happen. But most of the time, these things, it doesn't work all the time, I would say so.
I don't think I have any malaria in my life before because I do treat myself and I keep my environment very neat.
I do try my best to, keep my surrounding clean, avoid having stagnant water, which is actually what they breed on. Then fumigate.
I make sure my house is okay, like use the right insecticide and then cover myself if I'm outside the house, maybe coming to night class to read, then make sure I protect myself from mosquito bites.
If you live in a places where there are gutter, you clear water, you clear your gutters.
For us, prevention plays more pivotal role than treatment. Where do you find these mosquitoes? You find them where there are white bushes. You find them where there are stagnant water. You find them where where do you even find stagnant water, like in gutters and other places around you? Then how else do you even prevent? Let's assume where you are living or where you are staying, you don't have control over the bushes around there. Even when they have stagnant water, what do? By introducing oil into that stagnant water, because the Plasmodium have stages. The larval stage of the Plasmodium will not be able to survive it in the water that any kind of oil is being introduced, assuming there's a stagnant water process of the Plasmodium.
There are a lot of measures that can be put in place in the prevention of malaria. Most importantly is making sure we avoid stagnant water around our vicinity, in our environment. Another measure too is to take care of the refuge dumps, because you discover that wherever there is refuge, on the ground especially, there are going to be pockets of water around there, and those pockets of water will serve as stagnant water that will aid in the life cycle of
state.
For herbal treatment, no, I do not subscribe to herbal treatment. From my understanding, most herbal treatments for malaria are not scientifically proven. Yes, so I feel like most of them are just plenty mixtures that are not measured and all of that. So I feel it's very dangerous.
I actually don't subscribe to the about treatments, and then my reasons are this. You see, when we claim that this was handed over from father to son, and it has been generations behind, I agree. But you also understand that in those times, those were the available medicines. Now, technology has come in. I tell people, why is it that for 5 minutes to 1 hour? Secondly, is that most of the people who sell these drugs, it's part of hustling to make money. And then, what is the dosage? Say 1 cup, is it a big cup or a small cup? And you find out that most of these things are very, very harmful to the kidneys, to the liver. So a simple problem becomes a big problem. So I discourage herbal medications. Now, they are now...
I'm sure you must be wondering all of the reports on malaria. It's just to let you know that malaria is a killer disease and we need to do what we need to do to stay alive. It's also very important to let you know that there's going to be a malaria vaccine in Nigeria by the beginning of 2024. New introductions, and I would say that this is a medical breakthrough, for the medical sector in the country as well. But Sleep on that Primary Healthcare Development Agency in Akwa Ibom State tell us, when you are on treatment, make sure you take your treatment just as you have been advised by your doctors. Don't be like some of us that will take treatments, and at some point when we feel that we are beginning to get well, we just dump the drug somewhere, end the dose, and then move on. Okay, so that's not right at all. But we are bringing this report to remind you that malaria is a killer disease, and if we do not take very intentional steps in trying to reduce the impact that it has on children, on pregnant women, and even us without being pregnant. Something quite interesting, Uyai. The word Pele. Of course, when we hear the word Pele, we know that it is synonymous with the great footballer, the Brazilian legend there. It's quite interesting to know that as part of immortalizing this great man that did so well for the Brazilian country in terms of football, has been immortalized by being introduced into the Portugal dictionary. And what does it? So when you hear Pele, when you hear Pele in the dictionary, when you're trying to look for an adjective now to qualify somebody that is extraordinary or has done so much in his or her particular field, so Pele comes to mind. Yes.
So Pele is now going to become a new word, a new way that we describe people for their ingenuity. John is Pele. Janice is a Pele. Tony Afia, lead man of TAF Media Group. So we say happy birthday, Sir Pele.
Are you sure we're using this in the right context now?
Yeah, because I mean, you're saying if you're looking for a word to use as an adjective to describe a person.
Tony Afia is such a Pele gentleman.
Okay. So anyway,
he's such a Pele gentleman, such an extraordinary gentleman. Yeah.
So Pele is not a word.
Yeah, it's not a word. It's really a word now. So it's just like when we had some Nigerian slangs, introduced into the dictionary, like the word buka. I know that the man Wale Soyinka was one of those that pushed for it to happen. They now have bukateria in the Nigerian dictionary. So there are other words that we normally use as our normal everyday slang and words in the Nigerian context, and then it now went into the dictionary like recognized. Okay, so this group of people use this a lot. So why not let's recognize it as one of those words in the dictionary? So it's good to see that this is happening for Brazil, and I think about how many million signatories now made that happen. I think I was trying to look at it. 125,000 signatures, was appended to this particular campaign to just make sure that they honored Pele's impact beyond football. So his impact just went beyond football, and that's why we have this kind of recognition as well. But it's a great thing to see. Of course, he died suffering from colon cancer. At the conversation around our CEO, Mr. Tony Alfia. Today is his birthday, and I think that he's just a great personality, if you ask me. He has this aura, around him. Aside from being a businessman, that loves business, but I think a lot of kudos will be given to Mr. Tony Afia. He's one person that loves his people, and he's one person also that will do everything to give back to, Kwibom community. He's one person that will do everything to give back to the Aqua Cross region, and that's why we have, these three broadcast stations birthed here in Ibiakuran. He feels that, look, there's something I need to do for my community. While we're waiting for government to touch the lives of people in our local communities, we as private individuals can do our own bit. And that's why he brought the three stations, Planet FM, thanks you have gained, that Ibiakuran has gained because of the broadcast house being here. You cannot, it's beyond countable, right? So from even the transporters here in Ibiakuran, they've gotten some, the kind of presence that has been dragged even from everywhere in the world to this particular place as something that we cannot even start talking about. But it's great to see that Mr. Tony Afia is doing all of this because of the passion that he has for humanity, because of the passion that he also has for the broadcast, the media sector as well. And today we are saying happy birthday to a boss, an ingenuine personality, someone that is a father figure. I like it when he smiles a lot.
And that's something.
His smile is actually
smiles.
very contagious, and then you just see beyond, his age. You see the boyish, in him. He brings out the boy in him and all of that. So happy birthday, boss.
Yeah, definitely. It's something else, our boss would do if he were not a businessman. He'd definitely be a comedian. Because he has a way of, he has his way with words, making people laugh, even in times where it looks like, okay, this building ought to be coming down. He just finds a way and throws in a jab. He jabs at people, in a moment where you're not even expecting
spontaneously.
It's just going to come out, comes at you, and then everybody is laughing. But I think one thing I'd really love to appreciate Tony Afia for is the fact that he's someone who gives people an opportunity to become. He provides the platform and expand yourself. So I think that is something that is greatly commendable, especially when we live in a climate where we say the Aqua Cross man does not help his brother to become. They don't give platforms to their own. But we've continued to see, Tony Afia beat against that particular odd, bringing his businesses back to his village where the odds are primarily stacked against the business. You do not know what our organization would be if we were planted in the city center or in the hub of town, but we are here out of all of the buzz of city and business. But God has been faithful. True. It just goes to show you the kind of person that he gives, and we are grateful for the light that is shining in the Aqua Cross region because of the media houses that he's brought. First of all, just for our viewers nationwide who may not know, Tony Afia was the person who brought in the first privately owned radio station into the Aqua Cross region, and that's about 10 years or more ago, and then he's continued to expand on that. Spectrum Television is also the first privately owned television station in this region, and then we have what is an indigenous radio station, indigenous language. We speak only our local dialects, and market women, transporters, they'll tell you they'll wait until they get that information from Tangsio FM, then they know it's authentic. So that's the kind of give back that Tony Afia gives to his society, gives to his state, a perfect gentleman, we must say, and the working environment beautiful. You need to see our scenery. If you come to Akwa Ibom State, just make sure you fly down and go through the huddle. If
you know, you don't have to talk much about that.
Yeah.
Of course, they hear when our guests come
Yes.
on set, and the first thing you ask is, how was the road to this place? Yes, we know that the road is quite challenging, but then there's this soothing feeling you get when once you get to our studios, and that is what has always, you know, held our guests spellbound. They always want to come again and again. You remember also we were talking to the executive secretary of primary health, everything, but you know, after the whole thing, she came here for the first time, and I'm asking her, would you come again, ma'am? She's like, oh, definitely, sure, Janice, I would definitely come again, you know. So it's quite a soothing environment here, and we give kudos to our CEO, Satonia Afia, for that as well. And so on behalf of all of us, express ourselves more, and we just pray that God will continue to bless you, bless your businesses, and of course your family moving forward. Now that's about our CEO. There's somebody else that is very dear to my heart, yes, personally dear to my heart, and that's one gentleman we call Nyene. Now, on a short one on Iene. Iene is one person that will never tell you no. He doesn't give no for an answer. So you're asking him, Iene, please do this for me. He's saying, no problem, ma'am. Iene, please do that for, even if you ask him to do 500 things, he will tell you, yes, he will do it. And that's the kind of spirit that attracts me to people. And he is one of our vision mixers. So those that work behind the scene, you definitely will not see him. But this young chap is a super duper person that I like so much. In fact, I love so much. Okay, today is his birthday, and on behalf of all of us on Rise and Shine again, we're saying a big happy birthday to Inyene this morning. Yes, that's the face behind
Definitely.
some of the major productions that we do here every morning.
I think I must add the fact that Inyene is an absolutely intelligent young person.
Yes.
He's very intelligent, and it has gone to speak for him in even being in the organization, because he's well represented in the things that he does back end. And we super appreciate you for how you make our work easy. And that cannot go without a saying. So happy birthday, Inyene. We absolutely appreciate you. The world celebrates you today. Such a great thing that you have birthdays with our boss.
With our boss, right?
You are a real boss. You are a real MVP. All right. Great birthdays, great people for our Spectrum family, and we are saying happy birthday to Satonia Afia, happy birthday to Inyene, our brains. Right. But that's definitely the much we can take today. It's been a good day. A new word we learned, Pele, has been added to the dictionary, so you're going to look for how you are going to begin to apply that new adjective. Well, my name is Uyai Aniek, and thank you very much for being a part of the show today. We absolutely appreciate you for always choosing Spectrum Television and choosing Rise and Shine. Thank you.
You know, at some point I wanted to hold your hands, like, yes, we've done a great job for every morning, and we've done this together with you from Monday up until this moment, and we'll definitely do it again next week Monday. Until then, keep being great Nigerians. Love, peace, and stay out of trouble. My name is Janice Cobham. Bye bye for now.